So you probably clicked on this video because you want to get back in your prime. But in order to get back in your prime, one thing you need to understand is, and this can mean anything, it can be physical or it can be whether it's being in your prime in school or your job or content creation, even anything. One thing you need to understand is you're doing this for your mission statement. What is your mission statement? A lot of people say, oh, I was in my prime, okay, when they're in their little group with their friends. And the thing is, they do that because they get a little ego boost or a dopamine rush. And that is not going to push you at all. This isn't about motivation. It's about what you're doing it for. If you're doing it to attract a certain woman, if you're doing it to retire your mom, you need to understand what your mission statement is and go all out towards it. Me being in my prime, I was in shape, I was running my business, and I was doing content creation, all these things, while I was also balancing my relationship with God, my relationship with my family. I had it very balanced. And then it's where I started focusing more on money or more on my business. Me focusing too much on one thing, and I lost the balance, and it was a domino effect of how I slowly came out of my prime. So one thing you need to understand is, for you to be in your prime, you need help. Now, I'm not saying you need help from other humans, because most humans are idiots. You need help from God. So you need to have a spiritual connection, okay? No matter what you are, Christian, Muslim, whatever you are, Jewish, you need to have a connection with God. You need to have something that you can rely on, because then you have that, so that you can learn from my mistakes. One thing that made me go out of my prime, okay, or fall out of my prime, was that I listened to people. I listened to bakwas. I listened to idiots who had nothing going on for themselves, okay? Fat people, okay? Or people who didn't have their life together. And I don't mean to be offensive, but the thing is, like, why am I going to listen to somebody who doesn't have their life together when I do? Why would I want to change and adjust my life to how they live it, okay, when they're clearly not happy with their lives, but I am? So that's one thing you got to do. So let me give you an example of what it was that I listened to. When I was making content, I would call men out and say, you're weak, you're fat, you got to get in shape, you got to do this and that. And people would call me, oh, you're Mr. Alpha male, or you're being such an alpha. And slowly, time to time, I'd ignore it, but slowly it got to my head. Maybe I am too rough or overboard with how I do my content. So I slowly started slowing down. What I also noticed was the views were going down. You know why? Because these viewers of yours, they're like women, okay? If you listen to them, okay, and submit or do what they say to do, like if I slow down my content and said and went a bit easier, what they will do is they'll lose respect for you, okay? They lose respect for you. There's a reason why they watch you, okay? Even if they leave hate comments or even if they talk shit, there's a reason that they're watching you. If you're talking to a girl and she says, oh, you're this and that, but she's still there's a reason, okay? Because maybe she respects you. And then you listen, and then you just fall out, and then you lose the respect that people have for you. So getting in your prime is also, so one is having your relationship with God, okay? And then it's not giving a fuck about what people think. Nobody, except for the people that you respect. If there's someone that you respect, a mentor, a teacher, your parents, okay? If they tell you something and, they're logical with it and it makes sense, and you analyzed it and you see that they're just looking out for your best interest, then it makes sense. Even if your parents or your mentor or someone else is telling you something, but you also calculated the outcome of it and you said, you know what, this doesn't make sense to me. Maybe you're in an older generation and that's why you don't understand the newer generation of content as well in this generation, or this does well in this generation. For example, if they say stop making content, you gotta also use your brain and say, okay, you know what, I think it does in this generation because they don't really understand, and then prove them wrong. Do it. The thing is, you can't just be The thing is, let me tell you something. If I'm being honest, you know why you fall out of your prime? Because you're a little bitch. That's why. You're a little bitch. You fall into your desires. You fall into this. You fall into what feels good. You might do a whole bunch of bakwas. You stop going to the gym. You stop making content, and you fall out your prime. And that's how I fell out of my prime. But what I'm doing now is I'm doing a 30-day transformation of getting, back in my physical condition, even better than what I was when I was in my prime. It's other stuff too, Now I'm making content and of how I want to make it because I don't give a fuck what people think. The thing is, as a man, okay, you gotta be ready for whatever. If you want to talk the talk, you have to be able to back it up, okay? If I'm saying that I don't give a fuck about what people think, I don't care about what incels on the internet have to say or anything, I gotta be willing to back it up. I can't say, oh shit, that one comment, maybe he's right. Except for if he's actually right and I actually made a mistake. But if it's like something, this is kind of getting into my head, maybe I should. No, you can't be a bitch, bro. Because life isn't made for men. Like, men can't be bitches, bro. No matter like what. Even back in the 500 years ago, you would be in war. You can't say, oh no, I don't feel like going to war. Otherwise, you're known as bitch and you don't get a wife or wives and you don't reproduce and no one wants to be with you. You're just a loser. So the reason you're a loser is probably because you're a bitch. Okay? And I was a bitch too a little bit in the past. And that's why I fell out of my prime. Once you realize that, okay, you know what? I'm a bitch. Let me fix my life up. Stop the bad habits. Have a connection with God. Respect your mother. Drink 9 glasses of water a day. Pray. And grind your ass off. There's no reason why you're not going to be successful. There's absolute no reason why you wouldn't be successful. So that's what I would say. That's how you get back in your prime. Okay? And let me just go into the specifics and details because a lot of men don't have the roadmap. What you need to be doing every single day is at least go to the gym once a day. Okay? Well, calculate depending on how you train, if you're an athlete, if you're a bodybuilder, whatever it is, if you need a rest day or something, then calculate that. But you need to be going to the gym. Firmness that I can rely on this no matter what happens often. Okay? It needs to be a habit, something you don't skip. Another thing is you need to have a good relationship with your mom. Okay? You need to have a good relationship with your mother. Make sure she's always happy with you. Because if she's not, then you're not gonna have a good life, bro. And something else you're gonna need to also have in your life is a connection with God. Okay? I truly believe if if your mom is happy with you, and if God is happy with you, and you just work your ass off, you're gonna be successful. That's literally the formula, bro. That's the cheat code. And I'm not doing this on some wholesome bakwas. Oh yeah, I'm not doing this on some wholesome shit, Like, this is actually, like, you will actually see in people's lives, if they're not successful, most of the time it's gonna be because they don't have a good relationship with their mother. And if they are, then it's a test from God, But the thing is, if you genuinely work extremely hard towards your goals and you have a good relationship with your mother and God, you made it. You're back in your prime. That's it. That's all you need. So, and I genuinely believe when I kind of fell out of my prime was when I slowly was losing my relationship with God. But now I'm going to try and dial that back in as I go to the gym, as I work on my business and do all these things. And it's all about balance. Okay, you can't go. The thing is, you need to have a balance in your life with God, with your relationships, and with work. Because when you get to a certain level, it's about how much stress you can tolerate and how you can balance everything. And then, bro, you got it. You just need the relationship with God, your mom, and you work hard, and then you're on steroids when it comes to success. But that's it. But what you'll notice is when one of those things fall out of balance, everything falls out of balance, like a domino effect. Mark my words. Until next time.